Perfect. And it's in speaker view. Let me get my Zoom open. All right, I'm going to let some people in now, and then I'm going to ping in Discord. So
Great. Thanks, Quinn. Hello there, everyone. Given just a minute for folks to get logged on. Nice to see people.
I like that you're wearing your sticker. I might follow suit here. It's too shiny.
Yeah. Good to see everybody. One of the things we're going to talk about on this call is how everybody can get stickers of their own. So felt right to be wearing it, to be repping it. If folks have been on a call with me before, you know that I'm going to give about 2 minutes before we get started, and then we'll let people kind of get caught up and trickle in. But feel free in the meantime, the folks who are here on time, go ahead and drop into the chat where you're calling from. And if you want to share anything that you're particularly curious about, questions that you want us to answer today, I'm going to start collecting some of those questions for the Q&A section that we have at the end. And generally, if you have questions on the topics that we're talking about, I'll try to pull some of those out of the chat as we go. I like to include as many questions throughout as we possibly can, and anything that I don't find a way to weave into the narrative as we're going, we'll call out in that Q&A section at the end. Awesome. We see Portland, Oregon. I'm over here in Portland, Maine, the other Portland. We've got Charleston, South Carolina, North Carolina, Rochester, Illinois, Massachusetts, New York City, New York City, New York City, Minneapolis. Awesome. Art, you're in the right place. That's a great question about our highest ambitions in the next 18 months. We're definitely going to cover that on this call. Indianapolis, hanging out in Naptown. All right. Well, it's 6:03. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let's start with what we're here to do and what we're going to be covering today. So this is our first strategy call. This is a call that we're hoping to do regularly to give people periodic updates and kind of peeks behind the curtain about what our highest ambitions are at Good Party and what our sort of key initiatives that we're working on are. The goal is to really invite people in and be transparent about both the successes that we're facing, the challenges that we're facing, the opportunities, all of it. So we're going to give an update on our progress so far this year. We're also going to talk about our approach to candidate identification and the importance of referrals, especially at this moment of the calendar. We're facing in the next 60 days a number of really important filing deadlines where a majority of the candidates who are going to have elections in November are going to be officially declared. We're going to talk about a really exciting new partnership that we're rolling out and kind of give a sneak preview of a wonderful organization, a partner called the Independent Veterans of America. We're going to talk about the launch of our Discord teams. We recently reorganized the way that we're approaching volunteerism in our Discord. And we're going to talk about a really exciting 4th of July sticker campaign and an ongoing visibility campaign that we're hoping to launch out of this 4th of July. And then, of course, we'll hold out Q&A at the end of the call. And as I said at the beginning, just in case there's anyone who's joining, feel free to ask questions throughout. I try to monitor the chat as best as I can. I'll weave them in where appropriate, and I'll try to pull any of the questions that we miss or we're unable to answer, and we will try to go ahead and answer all those questions in the Q&A section at the end. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce the first speaker, and we're going to hear from a whole cross-section of members of the Good Party team today. But first, I want to introduce our COO, Victoria Mitchell. Victoria is going to give us an update on our progress so far this year, really kind of leaning into what we've done since January and where we're going for the rest of the year. So Art, I think this one will really kind of focus in on some of the key questions that you're interested in. Without further ado, Victoria, take us away.
Thank you so much, Rob, and love seeing so many faces on the call and folks tuning in by phone. Super excited you're here, a lot to cover. And since this is a strategy call, I definitely wanted to just start with a grounding on what is strategy, what are we talking about? Just make sure we're on the same page, because I don't know about you, but I've probably seen 100 definitions of what it means, and there is no one to rule it all. But let's just get on the same page really quick of what I do want to cover about goodparty.org strategy. So I think the best definition I've seen is it's a series of choices that we're making, right, toward our aspirations and goals, which we're going to talk about here, deciding where we're going to play, in this space, how we're going to win in the markets that we're choosing to go into. Market can feel like more commercial language, but in our case, we're looking at the country and where do we want to play and how do we want to win. And then what capabilities and systems are required to make this happen. So today we're going to be focusing especially on the movement side of those capabilities and systems. So super excited to turn that over to the team after I'm done and talk about how we can make this all happen. So with that, I just want to ground in the aspiration of what we're doing here. I think folks are coming to this call from all levels of knowing goodparty.org, new, been around for a while, been, kind of lurking and checking it out, have been more plugged in. But our vision is a truly representative democracy where our biggest problems are actually getting solved, which if you look at the state of government today, it's happening in some pockets, but for the most part, not to the liking of the general population. And currently, these are the folks who are empowered to solve these problems. Again, I think we're in good company here of generally not being so sure that that's going to happen from this group of people. And so we're trying to create that alternative path. And that alternative, is really rooted in our mission, which is to make people matter more than money in our democracy. Not everyone knows, Good Party now, goodparty.org is how we're kind of speaking to the name, has been around for 5+ years. It was very nascent at the beginning. And the two things, though, that have stayed consistent throughout the entire journey has been this mission statement and this logo. These are the two pieces of the puzzle that have really stayed true. And, I've been here for almost 3 years now, building the organization and building from the trenches. But this mission has really been the through line of trying to figure out what can we do, what can we contribute, what leverage can we create to make people matter more than money in our democracy. What does that look like for our organization? So really proud that that's at the heart of what we're doing. And so getting into 2024, what are our goals for this year? I'll say it straight up, it's 1,000 wins. That's our goal. That's what we're shooting for. And I want to tell you why. The reason why is we really need to go to a state of credibility and undeniable momentum. If you've been following us previously, last year we went from 0, wins on the board to 1, and then that happened in Nashville, and then we went from 1 to 11 by the end of the year. So we started to see, okay, there's something here, there's something about empowering candidates with tools that they otherwise don't have to run and win. And we need to double down hard on making candidates successful and bringing folks into this movement. And really, we've been at this very, very early part. If you've seen an early adopter curve, which goes for any, form of technology, anything new being introduced to a group of people, to date, we've really been at the very beginning of that journey. And what we're doing this year is really trying to break out of that into, firmly into this early adopter space and setting ourselves up to capture, next, right? And, if you've been around, this space, you've heard all the naysaying, of why independents can't win and, all these objections out there. We really want to put a stake in the ground with 1,000 wins, where there's undeniable momentum there. It's a number you can't argue with. It's credibility that gets people's attention. And so that's, a huge piece of why we've set our sights on that. And I'll kind of show you how we're on track to get there. Other reason why, obviously, inspiring stories, seeing all kinds of, faces, demographics, political identities, perspectives on policy coming through this large group of people that we can then highlight and show how, diverse this movement is, and I think I'm very proud, with goodparty.org that we are all across the ideological spectrum in what we're doing. And that's been extremely important to me every step of the way and to our team. And so we really want to have that to show for at the end of this year. And then ultimately all this leads to a lot of insights, right? This scale going from the little bit that we had last year to this scale for this year is going to give us so much to harvest and to do so much more to support candidates to be even more effective and to build a stronger movement. So that's why we're targeting this scale. And, I'll just, be straight up here too, that the majority of elections are happening in November, right? I mean, and so we're on the journey to this, and I'll show you where we at with wins so far this year. But there's the big thing at the end, and a funny joke actually I heard about this that is relevant is like, you can liken it to being in the Halloween business if you sell costumes for Halloween. All throughout the year, okay, so people are buying costumes, like getting nervous though, I wonder how many people are gonna come at the end, and then Halloween happens and that's it, right? So we have the same dynamic in what we do. And so we are, pushing hard and leaving no stone unturned, even with signs of success. We're not taking our foot off the gas here because there's a huge, going up this early adopter curve is a hill to climb, right? And so we have no bones about that challenge that we're dealing with. And then to the question of where do you play, in this
Victoria,
yeah, for sure.
Just a moment. I want to elevate a question from the
Please.
here on that last slide. And you answered it through a lot of different angles, but we have a question that asks, why not 100 wins? 1,000 is rare for any organization. And this is one that we've talked about a lot. And
may I just give some preface to that question since I was the one who asked it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've experience working with multiple organizations, and I've been part of a county party leadership team. So and in Portland, no less. So. And from my knowledge, and also attending other candidate schools like Justice Democrats and East County Rising and stuff like that. As I said, 1,000 wins is very rare. It often can take a lot of resources as well. And so something smaller that you tend to see with organizations that have credibility and are seen as strong forces are like in the hundreds, like maybe like a few hundred, let's say 200 local offices most people don't pay attention to, 50 state legislature seats, and then maybe 10 congressmen, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, thank you for that question and for the preface too. It is aggressive for sure, right? It's a fast growth curve to go on. I think not everyone's aware of the really interesting position this organization's in. We're really lucky to have a strong founder and funder who's putting cards on the table for this, in a way that a lot of similar other organizations have to, really push to get funding to get to that next stage. We're lucky, we have the conditions here to push hard and to go fast. And so we're pushing as fast as we can, looking ahead at the state of our government, the state of our democracy, looking toward, what's that trajectory over the next 4 years. We feel a very high sense of urgency to really push extremely hard this year to get to that 1,000 mark. Maybe we don't get there, right? But we're going to try our damnedest to get there as best we can. And I'll show you the win rate in a minute here. And I think, I'm feeling pretty optimistic, honestly. I mean, it depends on where you sit. There are pragmatists on the team who are a little less optimistic. And so there's a range, right here. But I think it is in reach given the scale at which we're adding candidates. I mean, just in the last 2 weeks, I think we've added 175 candidates, into this mix. So we're rapidly accelerating, which is really exciting. So more to come on that. Rob, would you add anything there?
Yeah, I think the only other thing is, we're seeing a lot of chatter in the chat here, aim high. I'm a fan of the old phrase, if you want a dollar, don't ask for 50 cents, ask for 10, right? And I think that is a part of how we're approaching this goal. You know, we want something aspirational to shoot for, and a part of that is driven by urgency. We are in a time, you know, where you know, whether it is AI, whether it is automation, whether it is, you know, issues of war and peace, issues of healthcare, they're critical issues that if we wait another 4 years, another 8 years, another generation to solve, the consequences are dire. So this is the time to be audacious. And the idea of going after 1,000 wins, going from 1 to 100, 1 to 1,000, it's work that I'm proud to be a part of. And I think it's driven by the urgency of the mission.
Exactly. Yeah. No, great question. And I think, yeah, it's a school of thought thing to some extent, for sure. We're definitely on the aim high, you know, kind of perspective here. And I think just, you know, building on that, and you mentioned this in your question too, right? Local is the biggest opportunity here. And so when we say 1,000 wins, the vast majority of these are going to be local elections, right? We're not really playing in the federal election space at all. And a lot of the organizations that split across all those levels of government, the federal elections take up a lot of airtime and a lot of resourcing, you know, right? And so we're staying very firmly focused on local and then state legislative, not statewide. Like, we're not working on any governor races, you know, et cetera. We're focusing on those district level races. But, you know, when you look at the way politics is going to go this year, it's going to be all about these two. That's what we're going to be bombarded with constantly. But, you know, we see, you know, this picture is a 4-year picture over a 4-year cycle. How many elections happen in America? There's 500,000 local elections, close to 19,000 state elections, and then a teeny tiny, you know, bit here at the federal level. And so when you look at the local level, especially, those elections are 70% uncontested. It's interesting to look at the 2024 numbers. So there's approximately 150,000 elections happening this year across the country, and Ballotpedia updates their data every month so far for elections that have happened. So this is ones that, you know, have taken place. They've been 72% uncontested this year. So following the trend here. So huge opportunity at the local level. We'll talk about some of the folks who've been running this year so far, and you know, it's just someone putting their hat in the ring and contesting someone who's been sitting there typically for quite a while, you know, so the opportunity is there to have a 2-way race, not a 3-way race in many cases. Though I will note our first win in Nashville was a 3-way race, and we're very proud of that. So and then getting into how will we win, you know, I'll just kind of jump over this quickly, but the pieces here for us are the product, these tools for candidates to run and win. I think a big piece, and I think I saw this maybe in the chat earlier, Rob, about are we buying email lists is a question. You know, just big picture for a second though, voter data is a huge piece of the puzzle here. Historically, you know, before goodparty.org, if you chose to run as an independent candidate, you know, in a local race or a state race, you were on your own to get your voter data because, you know, the tools, the data, et cetera, are very firewalled. The blue tools, the blue data, the red tools, the red data. And if you're not those two, good luck, you're kind of on your own. And the data, when you piece it down, can be very expensive to just buy your little district. We bought the national voter file a couple months ago. So we made the big plunge here to take on this role of having the data and offering it to candidates who are independent, nonpartisan, part of any of the alternative parties. And so that's a huge, you know, leveling of the playing field that didn't exist, you know, en masse before. And we're really excited to be improving the product rapidly to, you know, include these insights about voters so that, you know who you need to get that win. And, you know, we're just improving it every day. That's really, you know, our founder is a technologist and an entrepreneur. And so that's really been in our DNA all along, is what is the tech side of what we can offer to level the playing field in addition to all the other pieces of the puzzle here. Political support, second piece of the puzzle here on how we win. And the product is still being built. It's still, right, we're building new features, we're improving features. And so we're still have a strong backbone of political expertise here. We're growing that side of the shop and the team to make sure the candidates have direct support with someone who's been in the trenches running campaigns and can offer them direct support. Also have a candidate community through Discord that's been thriving, and then candidate training. So just, full suite there to support candidates. And then finally, volunteerism and movement building to help candidates win, which is what we'll spend more time on later on this call. So these are the three pieces to the how we will win. And now I think, I anticipate this will be the, most interesting part for a lot of people here. How are we doing? What's going on? And so far this year to date, we've identified over 15,000 candidates who are running for office. And these are nonpartisan or independent candidates. We're not including Democrats and Republicans. These are folks who are in our universe. So far, I just updated this number right before this call. We're up to 770 local and state candidates who are filed to run for office. There's even a bigger number beyond that who haven't necessarily finished their filing process yet. So we're excited to see more of those come through. And these are folks who are using our tools, who are, pledged, with us, and, are going to be counted toward those 1,000 wins if they win. And it's been growing. 100. Honestly, I think I forgot to update this number right before, so it's probably closer to 200 at this point, new candidates just in the past 2 weeks. At the beginning of the year, we literally had to stand up an operation. How do you even find these people at these very local levels? It's really, really hard. There's no database you can just pull from and say, oh, I found them all. It doesn't exist. And we've been partnering with Ballot Ready and Ballotpedia and doing our own work to pull all these pieces together. And so the beginning of the year was slow because we had to build a whole operation from scratch to do this. Now we have that operation, we've worked out the kinks, and this thing is starting to really take off, which I'm endlessly excited about from all the hard work from the team that went in the earlier part of this year to even solve these problems. And we have 50 states, all 50 states are represented in this group. So that's also really, really cool. And then, we've had some elections so far is the last piece here. There are primaries and also general elections that happen in the springtime throughout the country at the local level. We've had 240 elections take place so far this year, which we've watched very closely. We've had 82 wins come on the board toward that 1,000 wins. It's a 34% win rate, which is far higher than we anticipated. We're really, really, really excited about this. Last year, for context, in 2023, with our very tiny sample size, we had a 21% win rate. So we were like, okay, we should be more conservative and anticipate 19%. Like we don't know, we don't know. It's a small group, anything could happen. And it's gone, it just, consistently we see 32%, 31%, 34%. Like the numbers are remarkably consistent in different configurations of races and locations in the country. So we're seeing a trend, obviously have to follow the trend and see if it continues. November is an even bigger splash, right? And so a lot can happen in November, but we have a fair bit of time here to really shore up those ways that we can help candidates win and make sure they're in the best position possible. And so I'd love to just turn it over to Jared Alper, our political director, who's going to say more in just a minute as well. But just tell us, Jared, who are some of these folks so we can get an idea.
Yeah, it's been an exciting time just as we've really cracked the code here on how to identify candidates and send them down our funnel into a place where they're landing in my lap and the team that we're building around the political side of the shop. I think the screen stopped getting shared here.
I turned it off because you don't have slides for this anyway, so I figured we could take a break from the slides for a second.
Yeah, so we're working with it's a really, really diverse and broad slate of candidates from across the country running for offices like city council, school board, state legislative offices. I know we have a few federal candidates, even some who are tuned in on here, all the way down to really local town council offices and small communities in terms of scale across the country. We've been elated, especially as we've gotten into election season, to see success, especially in races like school board seats. We came off a series of elections in North Dakota and Georgia, where in the state of North Dakota alone, we won over 50% of the elections that we were contesting, all for city council and school board elections. So we're seeing momentum. The driver of this is moving in the right direction. We're excited to see the idea that independent, people-powered, and anti-corruption candidates is really taking hold, especially as the sort of calendar shifts into election season, where folks are looking around at the national level, looking for alternatives. And it's encouraging. We're excited to see candidates coming into the bucket. There are two that are top of my mind because they are candidates who really are sort of narrative stories that I think are worth sharing. One is a candidate who is based out of Kennesaw, Georgia. He's just been inaugurated as the city councilman out there, had run twice in the past, ran up against a really organized establishment on the Republican side, and failed to break through on both times. He kept getting closer, but kept on running into headwinds. In late May, he got elected outright and is now serving on the city council out there. And when we asked him, hey, what was the difference between the campaign that you just ran and the campaign that you just came off of? He said, look, I had access to knowledge that was made available to me through these AI tools, not necessarily earth-shattering, high-tech political campaigns that you see in the movies, but it was the little best practices that separate a winning campaign ultimately from a losing campaign. And he was able to take the practices that were enabled by the tools and use the data to reach his voters effectively. And he won by 12 points to the nearest competitor. We also had a candidate very recently out in Georgia for a school board in Gwinnett County. And she was running against a really entrenched candidate on the Democratic side. It's a suburb of Atlanta. We had it was a really high turnout election for a school board seat. And she actually finished second in her primary election by 10 points. She came into a runoff election that she forced. She was feeling good just to force a runoff, but had maybe lower expectations heading into an election, and worked with our team to really press the foot on the gas to get out the vote, sent out a lot of messages, targeted text messages, was hitting doors like crazy, and turned a 10-point deficit going into the election into a win by 17 votes on election day. So she's now seated. They certified the election. She is a seated school board member, topped an incumbent that was heavily backed and endorsed by the Democratic establishment out there, and actually joined another goodparty.org endorsed candidate. So there are two people-powered, independent, anti-corruption candidates sitting on the school board just outside of Atlanta. It's a big community, significant win for the movement, and we were really just excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, this 1,000 wins number, I mean, the storytelling potential here is endless, right, as we get there. Thank you, Jared, for sharing those. It just makes me so excited. And so just to finish out my section really quick here, where do we go from here, to get to that 1,000 wins number and beyond? I think to an earlier question I saw as well. I think Jared's going to speak to this more in a second. We got to identify more folks, who could take part in this and use the tools. End of August is going to be a huge filing deadline, which I'll let Jared speak to more. And then, internally, especially working on increasing the conversion rate, of candidates to use the tools. And like I said, this has been an iterative process that's just getting better and better and better. It's amazing to watch, and so those 15,000 that are out there, some of them are, their elections have passed, they were earlier in the year, but there's a lot more still in that bucket and so many more to come for us to welcome into this movement. And then obviously improving that win rate, making the product better, making the political support better, and then, building the movement to support these candidates, which, is this last point to grow the movement. And, all of that, 1,000 wins, et cetera, why does it matter in the big picture? Ultimately, we want to scale up to more races and bigger races and be able to offer more support to the big races, that are happening this year and in future years, and set ourselves up for that in 2025. And very big picture, again, audacious goals. Where are we trying to go with this movement and this organization? 10,000 wins in 2026, continue up that curve. And, it's aggressive, but it's what we believe needs to happen, in order to secure a future where our biggest problems are actually getting solved, back to that vision statement. And ultimately, the big, 4-year cycle here, not wanting to wake up in 2028 to an election like this one. That's the, for me, what definitely gets me out of bed in the morning this year in particular, when I look at the news every day. I just, I can't fix what's going on in 2024 at this presidential race. Obviously, we're very heads down at the local and state level doing the groundwork needed here. But I sure don't want to wake up in 2028, for a repeat of some kind. So that's what the strategy looks like. I hope that's helpful. I definitely want to, pass the baton to Jared here to take it further, unless Rob, you want to interrupt with anything here before we do that.
Yeah, well, I'll cue Jared up and just elevate again out of the chat here. Gabriella asked the question, how do you identify candidates and prepare them for campaigning? Are you prospecting non-career politicians? And I'll say that we certainly do a lot of that. We, in 2023, started running Good Party Academy, which was a cohort where we would coach people on how to run for office, from the moment that you decide that it might be a good idea all the way up to actually pulling the trigger and launching your campaign. And through that, was it able to meet a ton of wonderful candidates, people who are first-time candidates running as firefighters, nurses, teachers, veterans, the works. And that was really rewarding work. And we continue now twice monthly to host candidate deep dive trainings where we'll go into a single subject out of our Discord, and we'll cover, I think last Thursday, we did one on debate prep. We've done how to secure endorsements, how to launch your campaign, all of these pieces, giving sort of trainings for those first-time candidates. But a really big part of the puzzle is actually looking at campaign filings and doing candidate ID based on the folks who are already running for office of their own volition and reaching out to the nonpartisan races. And I'll let Jared kind of lean into what that process looks like, and sort of some of the successes of that, some of the challenges that we've had with that, and ways that even some of the people on this call can help with the really important work of candidate ID. We can't get to the 1,000 wins if we don't first build out a bench of candidates who are using the tools, who are running with the Good Party Pledge. So, Jared, without further ado, take us away.
Yeah. So to reiterate, right, year to date, goodparty.org has already identified over 15,000 people who are running for office this year, which is a really deep pool of folks who have either come to us and said, hey, I'm interested in running for office, and ultimately made the decision to file, or who are independently making the decision to run and then come to us after the fact looking for resources and support. We're happy to work with both. We're happy to work with candidates who are coming in and finding and discovering this organization, however it ends up happening. So those are the two principal avenues, right? We have candidates who are self-filers, folks who have gone through the process of considering and deliberating and ultimately making the decision to run. And those are folks that we're discovering increasingly every day, especially right now. The principal period of time to file to run for office, especially with an election date that's scheduled for November 5th of this year, is end of May through sort of end of July, first week of August. That is where we're going to anticipate seeing a huge bulk of the candidates that we're going to ultimately be working with this year coming into our orbit. So we're starting with 15,000 candidates. We anticipate that number to balloon as we go through these summer weeks, heading up to the turn of the calendar into fall, when people start focusing on, okay, now the candidates are here, now we're tuning into elections, it's time to get to work. So these self-filers, we're really proactive, right? We're identifying them based on the times the filing deadlines hit. We're going directly to the source, which are secretaries of states, county registers, or election regulators, and engaging with candidates who have said, hey, I'm going to run for office, and introducing them to goodparty.org and trying to help them understand what we're about, find the candidates who are aligned with our mission, and support them in their campaigns. There are also candidates who are seeing opportunities come forward, right? They're folks who maybe haven't made the decision to run yet, but they are looking around in their communities and thinking, well, why not me if I'm unhappy with the status quo and looking to make a change? And these are folks who come to us and say, I'm interested in exploring a run for office. Maybe I'll pull the trigger to run this year. Are your tools helpful in helping candidates make that decision? And the answer is yes. And so they're distinct groups of people, right? A self-filer is not a candidate who there's any doubt about their intentions. They're off to the races. And our role is to help them understand what the offering of goodparty.org is, how it can help them in their campaign, reach them, and then start working with them and jump on the train as it's sort of already off the tracks, or on the tracks, but moving in towards election day. And with potential candidates, it's sort of the opposite, right? We're trying to help them get nurtured up into making the decision. You don't always convert everybody. In fact, it takes a specific sort of person to decide, especially at this point in the year, hey, I'm going to run for office and get off to the races in June. But they're coming in every day. We're working with them, understanding their intentions and trying to help the candidates ultimately get to the place where they feel comfortable making that decision. Combined from the two avenues, right? There's 770 candidates who have gotten to the place where they have onboarded with the product at goodparty.org. So we're actively working on how to improve that, how to tap into the candidates we've already identified, get a hold of them now that they're sort of really getting into election mode, and move them into the purview of my team, which is you're using the tool, now let's help support you in your election. And like Victoria mentioned, it's a national organization. We're really excited that goodparty.org has candidates across all 50 states. We even do have candidates running in Guam, American Samoa, Puerto Rico, a bunch of different territories across the country as well. And if you advance here, thing we would add is that referrals and people who are identifying candidates and able to help be ambassadors to this mission are going to be critical, right? For both different audiences. For someone who is actively running or even might be elected into office, there's something incredibly potent about a constituent of theirs coming forward to them and saying, I've been involved with an organization called goodparty.org. They're trying to make people matter more than money in our democracy and are recruiting, training, and electing independent, people-powered, and anti-corruption candidates. Are you one of them? People who are in elected office or who are campaigning for elected office naturally are responsive to the people they want to serve. And so someone who is a leader in their community, someone on this call even, who would go forward and engage with a candidate who's off to the races is going to have a really, really, I think, high conversion rate, essentially, in being able to connect our organization with good leaders in their community, whether they're up or down the ballot. And for people who are not actively running, right, if you're looking around and you're someone like Victoria, myself, Rob, a lot of the folks on this call, I imagine, who look at their state government, their local government, maybe even their federal government, and say, hey, I see something missing. The best way to convince someone to run is by encouraging them and by getting feedback from their community to say, I think you'd be an amazing candidate. And that ultimately is a powerful motivator. Connecting them to us, we can help nurture that lead and ultimately hopefully convert them into a candidate, someone who's ready to serve and run a competitive campaign. Sorry, one second. And the last thing I would say is we talked a little bit about these examples in Gwinnett County, but we've had success already in this referral process. Certainly among elected officials, we have an incentive program built out to hopefully, if there are candidates on this call and you're looking to bring people into the funnel, there's an opportunity to help advance your own campaign by bringing candidates into the funnel and connecting the two. I think there's something pretty exciting about having a slate of candidates on one ballot in one community who are being supported by goodparty.org. And we're happy to encourage candidates and even offer them things like a free round of peer-to-peer text messaging if you're able to successfully bring someone into our funnel. But there was also folks in our universe who were not candidates who engaged and proved that this model worked. A young man named Garrett Rask was in his community in Oklahoma and identified someone who was running and said, hey, have you heard about goodparty.org? Got him signed up, and it was a really effective proof of concept for us. And so there are opportunities to engage. We encourage folks who are looking around, looking to either support good candidates and then help them run competitive campaigns or even bring new people to the table to review the materials that we'll share after this call. Hopefully send some good people our way that we can, with your support, turn into good elected officials at the end of the year.
So I want to jump in here. Katrina is dropping a link to that guide on how to identify candidates. From here on out in the presentation, oftentimes we get asked, okay, I like Good Party, I'm following Good Party. How do I get involved? What are the things that I can do to actually help this mission? And in each of the sections that we're going to go through between now and the end of the call, we're going to be offering up an answer to that. And if you're somebody who has research skills, if you have outreach skills, this is a great way that you can contribute, and that's helping us to identify candidates. If you're a candidate yourself, you get the added incentive that you can win some free texting for your referral for both you and the person that you refer. So a little bit of an incentive program by way of those free texts. And as we get into the other sections as well, we'll give you a different call to action in each section. And hopefully my goal is that everyone who's on this call comes away with at least one thing that they sign up for, and that they say, okay, this is how I'm going to contribute to this movement between now and July 4th.
I think with that, we have an intro to make.
Great. Well, it is my honor to make this next introduction. A big part of how we're continuing to expand the way that we look for candidates, and the way that we bring people who aren't just career politicians into running for office is partnership. I see in the chat we have a number of people who are working with the Forward Party and are talking about the ways that they've used our tools to help support Forward Party candidates. So we're working with some of the independent parties. We're also working with a number of nonprofit organizations, affinity groups, and it is, like I said, it's my honor to be able to introduce our newest partner. I want to bring Paul Rykoff into the call. Paul is the founder and CEO of Independent Veterans for America. Paul's an author, he's an organizer, and he's a veteran himself. I'm really excited for Paul to talk about Independent Veterans for America, what the sort of organization is set out to do, the mission. Paul, good to see you.
Good to see you, Rob. Hello, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Again, I know folks are all over the place. Really exciting to hear how much is happening around Good Party. And on behalf of the newly formed Independent Veterans of America, we want to say hello, thank you, and we're excited to get to work to fuel everything you've been talking about for the last 40 minutes or so. So I just want to start by thanking Rob and Victoria and Jared and the entire team at Good for giving us their guidance and mentorship and getting us to this point now where you're getting a sneak preview of Independent Veterans America that we're really going to launch in force next week around July 4th, because it's Independence Day, which is Independence Day, and we're going to make it Independence Month, and we're going to introduce what we think is a really powerful and exciting new organization. Independent Veterans America has a pretty straightforward mission. We want to organize the millions of independent veterans in America and get them elected. About 49% of newer veterans consider themselves independent. I am among them. I'm an Iraq war veteran. I'm a 9/11 first responder. For many years, I led Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. We built a membership of over 500,000 veterans and led the way on things like the GI Bill and mental health reform and lots of other policy wins for the last 20 years. And what I saw is that many veterans reflected all the spirit and values that you all are talking about and why you're here. They put country over party. They represent integrity and values that are badly needed in this country. They represent leadership experience. They get shit done, and they're inspiring. So we're going to really create an organization that brings them together, that says, hey, if you're independent, you're not alone. There is now an organization that welcomes you, and we're really starting at the top of the funnel. Anybody who is an independent veteran is welcome to join us. Anybody who wants to support independent veterans is welcome to join us. And then over the course of the next couple of months, we're going to deepen that network. And by the end of the summer, identify our first crop of candidates for endorsement from Independent Veterans of America. And then we're going to use that community and every resource we can find to help them win and drive that number closer to 1,000 that Victoria talked about. And the really exciting and critical part of it is that the entire experience is built on the Good Party tools. That's a huge part of the value add. We want to encourage people to try the tools, to explore what they can run for, and to jump in and encourage other people to do it. This is really a moment that I think is calling to independent veterans. It cuts to the core of who they are. They're even more frustrated, I think, than the average American because they put their lives on the line. They've seen their buddies die. And we're going to give a sneak preview Zoom on Thursday night, right before the debate. So when America is extremely frustrated with the 2 limited options they see up on CNN, we're going to offer them an alternative that is diverse, that is patriotic, that is inspiring, that is unifying, and that hopefully can lead this country forward. So I know you got a sneak preview of the website. I'm going to ask a really hard thing. Don't share it just yet, but we'd love to get some feedback from you all. You can email us afterward. There's a link on the website. Tell us how we can improve it. Tell us if this speaks to you. Give us your ideas. I also want to give a shout out to my colleague, Chris Rosenthal, who's our creative director. He's helped design the look and feel and refine really the attitude that we're bringing, which is something I've used in the past. It's kind of edgy, muscular, and intelligent. It hits a little harder than a lot of stuff that folks have seen, and it's really going to resonate, I think, with the military and veterans community. And we're talking to veterans of all generation, going all the way back to World War II to present day. D-Day was a couple of weeks ago, and I think we were all reminded about the power and the potential of veterans to defend our democracy and to bring us forward and care for the next generation. That's really what this organization is all about. There's a video in there that I won't play now, but I'll ask you to check out. We're also trying to be a unifying factor in the space. So we've put together a pretty impressive advisory team that includes folks like Bob McDonald, the former Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Admiral Mike Mullen, who is a chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and some folks that you may know from this community, like John Updike, president of Open Primaries, Andrew Yang from the Forward Party, and our friend Victoria Mitchell here from the Good Party, Eric Bronner and Yinka Folletti from Independent, from Veterans for All Voters are also advisors. And we really want to put all these folks together and push hard from now until the end of July and into August to recruit folks. We'll say, hey, you may not be aware, but thanks to the Good Party tools, you can find out what offices you're eligible for all the way down to school board. And then there's some other high profile races that we have celebrated already, and we're going to continue to amplify. I also host a show called Independent Veterans of America, Independent Americans. And we've been interviewing candidates of all backgrounds, different spectrums who are independents, including, I think I saw Marcus Carter on here earlier. Marcus Carter, who's a veteran who's running for Congress in Florida. We also featured Shalane Etchinson, who's a Special Forces veteran who's running as an independent in Fort Bragg against a Republican who's not a veteran. Dan Osborne, who's a Navy veteran running for Senate in Nebraska, and folks at the local level that we haven't even identified yet. So we kind of consider this a band of brothers and sisters that we're going to unify over the course of this year, hit it as hard as possible, try to get as many of them elected this fall, and then the flywheel starts. We'll run crops every year there forward, and maybe one day a presidential candidate. But we think that this represents a really important catalyst for the independent movement, and it's something that folks have been waiting for. So we would appreciate feedback. Again, we're going to have a Zoom on Thursday night at 7. We'll have some special guests joining us. It's going to be quick. I'm going to walk through what the organization does. And once we formally launch, I'd ask you to spread the word. We're looking for many good men and women to join Independent Veterans of America. And one other piece I'll share is we've come up with a concept that asks people to leave the herds and join the pack. And what we realized is that people are pretty dissatisfied with the Republicans and the Democrats. They are herd animals. They are elephants and they are donkeys. Independents tend to be more lone wolves, if you will. They want to join the pack. So we're using a spirit animal that's the American gray wolf. So if you feel like you're a wolf that's been looking for your pack and you don't want to be a herd animal and you want to chart a courageous course and you feel hungry for change, Independent Veterans of America is that pack. So we hope that this resonates with people. We know it already has in our early testing. And most of all, I just want to thank everybody on the Good Party team. You all have been fantastic partners. We're getting great feedback on the tools already, and we're excited to put them in the hands of people all across this country. We've got leaders. We need ammunition. And we need backup. And I think that's what the Good Party team is going to provide, and many of you that are in the broader community. And if you're veterans yourselves, please hit us up. We want you. And we hope you can help build this into something that really transforms the political landscape of America. I'm going to stop there and throw it back over to you, Rob or Victoria, and welcome to take any questions.
Perfect. I see one question here in the chat, which is, will you endorse candidates?
Yes, we are shooting for an endorsement event in hopefully New York City and maybe Washington around September 11th, which is Patriots Day. We want to show the country the next generation of patriots. So we're hoping to bring them together at an in-person event around the week of September 11th and make a splash with that, and then push them throughout the election cycle to Election Day. And an important note, too, for folks that don't know, Veterans Day is a week after the election. So we also really view that as a really important time where half the country is going to be pissed off, at least half the country. And we want to offer them an alternative for the future. And we want to try to bring people together around Veterans Day, which is a rare time when people of all backgrounds actually do tend to unite and in support of our veterans community. So look forward to that as well. We're going to have local events, but really the push right now is to introduce this organization to independents, veterans, let them know that there is now a community for them. Membership is free and will include obviously the Good Party tools and other opportunities and benefits. And, you know, we're recruiting. So if you know somebody who might also be a Democrat or Republican and is willing to leave the herds and join the pack, we want to recruit them too and give them an alternative. A lot of folks don't know the path, and they've been serving their country in uniform for a long time, and they don't want to serve a party. They want to continue to put their country first. So those are the people we're talking to, and those are the ones we're going to endorse too. Great question.
Awesome. So I'm dropping the link to that website here in the chat again for everyone, and just underscoring, you know, if you are a veteran yourself, pop over to the website, give some feedback, get on the list for these guys. If you know veterans, point them in this direction. We often say, you know, imagine what America would look like if you were someone that you trusted was in elected office. And I can't think of someone who we trust more than the veterans who have already given so much by way of service to this country. So let's point more people towards this great organization. A IVA candidate is a good party candidate as far as I'm concerned, and vice versa. So excited. Thanks, Paul.
I want to give a shout out to Eric Faulkner. I see you in the chat, man. I'm an Army guy. And in this fight, it's, you know, Army and Navy can be one team together. So we welcome every branch. We want to be the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, and the Space Force for everybody. And I saw the question, are we planning to incorporate military spouses? Absolutely. You know, I think that we know that there's a broader community. And for folks that don't know, there's about 20 million about 17 million veterans right now in America. And if you put the families in, it's probably another 10 to 15 million. We're talking about spouses. We're talking about next of kin. But it's also a sizable number of people. And in the younger generation, especially, we're seeing a high percentage of people that are independent and unaffiliated, and an increasing number. And I think Good Party and other folks have highlighted young people are about 60% or more are independent and unaffiliated, and veterans tend to be younger than the average candidates, and especially the current candidates. So we're excited to have everybody who's in that community or wants to support that community.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, and this and many more partnerships to come. You know, if you can think of an organization that, you know, should be partnering with us to bring more candidates into the fold, please, you know, mention the chat or reach out via email if something comes to you in the middle of the night. There's a lot of room for partnership here. So thank you, Paul. Let's carry on.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
And we have some fun partnership events that are coming up in the next couple of days as well in our Discord. You know, last week, I believe or the week prior, we had Represent Us come on for a candidate training. Tomorrow, Unite New York is doing an AMA in the Discord. which is all a shameless way for me to transition into talking about the Discord with our Discord community manager, Quinn McCulley. We recently launched a new framework for our volunteerism in Discord in large response to the fact that the Discord has grown so much. And that we've started to see different use cases, different affinities, different skill sets breaking out. And I wanted to give Quinn a chance to talk about why we made these changes, what we're hoping that they will foster, and also to give people the opportunity to join the Discord if they haven't already. So Quinn, yeah, tell us all about Discord.
Yeah, so we've recently launched the volunteer teams to boost our volunteer efforts within the Discord community and make it even more impactful for those looking to get involved. We've broken it out into 5 structured teams that are organized by skills and passions that we've identified within the community over the previous months. And this is just to make it easy and effective for people to get involved and make a difference within the movement. I'm linking the Discord, and I'm going to continue linking the Discord multiple times just because I have it copy and pasted right there. But yeah, these teams are going to be awesome, and they are important. They matter because together we can work to make people matter more than money in our democracy. And these teams help maximize impact by focusing people's efforts on specific areas to achieve our goals more efficiently. And yeah, how to get involved is super easy. I'm going to mention it a couple times, but it's basically choosing a team that matches your interests and skills in the Start Here channel in Discord. And then, yeah, there's a variety of teams, whether you love writing, designing, engaging with voters, there's a team for you. I'm going to kind of go into the different teams now. We've got the visibility team. This team's role is to create campaign awareness and engage with others through various online platforms and in real life about goodparty.org and about candidates they want to, talk to others about. And then we have the voter outreach team. It looks like the phone got moved on this one a little bit, but this team's critical for connecting with voters through direct outreach, such as phone and text banking, canvassing, and door-to-door initiatives. We have the writing team. They assist with writing letters to the editor, blog posts, and other written content to support goodparty.org and our candidates' campaign messaging. And then the design team helps create visual materials such as flyers, posters, social media graphics, memes, and other promotional content for candidates' campaigns or goodparty.org. They've also done some feedback within that channel already for candidates' campaign posters and such. So just provide kind of their thoughts on different things as well. And then we have the Politico team. This team talks politics, current events, helps sharpen messaging, analyzes voter data, election trends, and demographic information to inform campaign strategies and target key areas. And then also within our Discord, we have a thriving exclusive candidate community where candidates can participate in questions of the week, questions of the day. There's a lot of candidate training stuff that goes on there as well. And then just casual conversation where candidates bounce ideas off of one another. And yeah, the first steps to getting involved here, for those that are not in the Discord, join it. For those that are in the Discord and are interested in getting involved, head over to the Get Involved category and go to the Start Here channel. And from there, you'll be able to select what team you want to join, depending upon your interests. And then if you're a candidate in our Discord, join the candidate community by heading to the Running for Office channel. And when you head there, there will be a verification form that once you've completed, will push you through to the exclusive candidate community.
Hey y'all, I just want to jump in a little bit early. Rob, I'm going a little rogue. Victoria, I'm going a little rogue. But if any of those teams sound like they make sense for you or you have more questions, you can definitely book time on my calendar. And I'm going to drop a link in here. So if you have questions and you want to sit down with a person and actually talk hey, what could I do? What does that look like? I'm the right person. I dropped the link in there and I'm sure I'll drop it again. But going a little rogue, y'all, I just figured I wanted to put a space in place in there so that if you wanted to ask more questions and talk to a person, I'm here for you.
Yep, and we're really excited about these volunteer teams, but we also know people have their own amazing skills and things that you can bring to the table. So if you're like, none of those fit, talk to Katrina. She's the one.
Yeah, the sort of underlying principle here is that we want there to be a space for anyone who wants to contribute to this movement. If you have a skill set, we will find a way to put it to use for the movement to make people matter more than money in our democracy. Well, on that note, we did want to close out our programmed part of this presentation before moving into Q&A with highlighting our first really big campaign that we'll be running out of one of these channels. And this is out of the visibility channel. Most of you by now have seen our logo, and this is an important logo where we are trying our best to make there be a symbol for the independent movement. You know, the Republicans and Democrats, they've got an elephant and a jackass. We are looking to put something a little more human, put the heart back into politics, and give the ability for Americans to really claim the identity, the idea that we are the majority. There are more independents than there are Democrats, more independents than there are Republicans. And that's what this campaign is all about. So we're running a campaign to get our stickers, these logos, out into the world. We hope that everyone on this call will certainly sign up to get some stickers. But I'm going to let Katrina talk through the strategy of this effort, how you can get involved, and why this is such an important part of our strategy here. So Katrina, take it away.
Howdy, y'all. I am sending the Get Stickers, or I am in a second, the Get Stickers link in the chat. And so as you're seeing here, well, let me back up. Thank you, Rob. And as Rob mentioned, my name is Katrina Vasallo. I am the new volunteer manager. And as you can see on this page, this is kind of like what our campaign page actually looks like. And we've launched our Independence Day sticker program, and we really want you to all take part. And we're really excited to have you take part because I'm going to be taking part in this, and why not everybody, right? And we really know that the majority of Americans identify as an independent, and these stickers are kind of our way of showing others, right? Like we want to be the red, bright, and blue, not only just this upcoming holiday season, but all year round. And we call it bright because the center isn't quite white, right? It's kind of this iridescent, really fun piece. And as I mentioned on this page that you're seeing here, this request page, and I've already shared the link, but I can share it again if needed. You can actually claim the sticker, share on the upcoming holiday, and just like forever in the future. This is really going to be an ongoing program of ours. And so, okay, you've clicked in, you've claimed your stickers, and the idea is that you're going to get friends, family, and ideally friendly strangers, if you're an extrovert like me, to scan the QR code right on the back. And really the idea is to like get the scans on the QR code, share photos on social, and tag with Brighten America. And if you don't tag, we'll miss you. That's all. But so really the idea is, right, okay, so you've clicked the link, you've typed in all your information, and now your stickers are at your house, right? And so like once you actually have your sticker, the quickest and easiest way is to hand it someone, be like, hey, Jared, you know, here, I think you'd look great with this sticker. Like you're not wearing enough red, white, and blue today. And they're like, oh, what is this? Be like, oh, well, scan the QR code, and they'll give you a total like explanation way better than I would, right? Like I think this organization's cool, but you know, they wrote all the copy, right? Quick and easy, the landing page and the QR code just it does all the work from there. But say you and Jared are best friends and you are at the parade or on the boat or at the beach or whatever you do for the holiday season, you know, I would really say like these are our words, but using your own words and something, you know, is about why you were an independent and something. So like, hey, every Good Party sticker, goodparty.org sticker that we hand out and gets scanned signals to other independents that we are not alone, because in fact, a majority of Americans are an independent, and that makes us the overlooked majority. Most folks don't think that we are the majority, right? And so this is a fun way to grow the movement by sharing the movement. And this 4th of July is the perfect day for people to declare their own independence. So scan this QR code, check it out for yourself, right? So you have a very clear call to action to your friends, like, hey, scan this, find out more about this. If you feel similar to me, then like these are the people for you, right? I also, and I know Victoria feels the same way, that this sticker is just kind of like a magnet for people in a way that like other stickers aren't. I went and voted recently and I was like, oh, the sticker's so boring. Like our stickers are shiny and pretty and almost like a disco ball, which is very in right now. But yeah, that's, you know, that's kind of our ask there for y'all is like claim stickers, claim your independence, get out there and really just like share it with others, share the message so that the movement can grow so that we can get our 1,000 wins. Yeah.
And this is just the kickoff, you know, obviously we're each going to be in our own communities this Independence Day, and it's just the beginning. This is something that we've talked about and believed in for a long time and are going to be really building up, you know, throughout the year and the years to come. So I'm super excited for where the, you know, symbology, you know, kind of goes with the movement. So thanks, Katrina.
Yeah, I'll just add that awareness is so key in politics, and I think anyone who's run for office or been around campaigns knows this. This is what all the money gets spent on. You know, the money in politics goes towards advertisements. It goes towards getting your name out there as much as possible. As an organization, we need to do that as well. And so this is sort of a fun viral way for us to put this image into the world, to slowly be building up in a grassroots manner the buzz around Good Party. This will help us to feed more candidates into the process. This will help us to recruit more volunteers. Plus, everybody gets these, as somebody said in the chat, shiny, happy stickers. So yeah, thank you everyone. And again, we'll drop the link in the channel in the chat one more time for everyone to be able to request those. But I want to pivot us into holding time for Q&A now. You can participate in this by asking your questions in the chat. I will do my best to pull questions. You can ask questions around anything that we presented here. If you have more questions for Paul and the folks at IVA, I'm sure they'd be happy to field some questions as well. But we'll stay on for about 15 minutes or so for questions. And if not, if we exhaust you before you exhaust us, we'll pivot into the closing pieces. But excited to keep talking with y'all.
While folks are getting their questions in, Rob, were there any that we didn't answer yet along the way here?
I think we did a pretty good job at weaving in most of these.
I did. My question regarding the July thing wasn't answered. If you guys remember that, do you want me to repost them?
Yeah, go ahead.
And in the meantime here, I see a question for IVA, so we can go with that, and then that gives a second for that.
Yeah, that first question, will IVA be organizing on a state-by-state strategy?
Great question, Chuck. You know, I think it's going to be driven nationally this time for the most part, candidly, because of the time crunch. And but we're going to endorse candidates at a state level. Right now, the number one goal for us is to help identify as many independent veterans as possible. And we're really taking a long view on this. I mean, this is a decades-long effort that we think is really going to grow over time. So, you know, honestly, no one's ever really issued an open call to them. So a lot of it is going to be learning. We know where the demographics of the population are strongest. We know that their highest concentrations are in Southern California, Northern Virginia, Texas, other places like that. But we're going to learn a lot in the first couple of months, just finding out where they are and then who wants to run. So stay tuned. But we definitely want help at the state level. And if you've got it and want to volunteer, we're going to have opportunities for folks over the next couple of months.
Another question here from Pamela Moses, a friend out in Tennessee. Pamela asks, how do we apply for an endorsement?
So you're going to do it through the website. And part of it is going through the Good Party platform and ensuring that you've filed as a candidate. We're going to have an interview process, and we have to also verify their military status, which is an important part of this that, frankly, I've seen other parties and organizations not do. But Again, I had 15 years of experience running Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. There's also a ton of leaders throughout all of the different veterans organizations, ranging from the VFW and the American Legion to Student Veterans of America, Team Rubicon, so many others. And a lot of those leaders have kind of topped off and they've wanted to run for office. And some of them have as Democrats and Republicans, but I think the higher percentage haven't had a pathway until now. And I saw a follow-up question. I can take it, Rob, if you want, from Chuck, which is a really great question. How are we different from Vote Vets and With Honor? Really straight up, Vote Vets only supports Democrats. And I know Vote Vets from working in this landscape for a long time, and With Honor only supports Republicans and Democrats. So in many ways, I was an early advisor With Honor, and I had hoped that they would unearth more independent candidates and support them, but they haven't. And in my view, my personal view, if you're only endorsing Democrats and Republicans, even if you're hoping that they moderate or work together, you're reinforcing the status quo. So it's a really important differentiator for us. There is no other organization in America that we know of that's supporting specifically independent veterans. Great questions, though, guys.
This next question, I think I'll direct towards our political director, Jared Alper. Jared, this is a question that asks, fundraising is vital for my competitive city council race. Need to reach 250 city donors. So do you think that this part of the election period is too late, or is just ramping up for those who didn't have primaries? Late in terms of getting campaigns off the ground. I believe this person is running, they had said previously, in Portland. So that's the timeline that they're working against.
And that sounds like a public financing related question. If my finely tuned ears are capturing the context.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too late, right? Certainly if you've got a November election, the summer is when campaigns really do start activating and mobilizing and organizing. And what I would encourage you to do is just take the time that you've got as people are starting to tune in and as people are starting to get out into their communities to get organized, right? This is the period of a campaign, and especially if you need to raise small dollars from a group of, let's say, 250 people, the opportunity to activate is right now. Identify the low-hanging fruit in your network, figure out the 10, 15, 20 people that you would be willing to, that you know would go to bat for you. And the ask is very simple, is can you introduce me to 10 people that I don't know today? And if each of them gives you $5 or whatever it is, and there are plenty of different ways to organize, right? Going today, this time of year, if it's not too hot, barbecue season is upon us. That's a great opportunity to have what I call friend raisers. It's an opportunity to get people in a room or get people outdoors, get organized, build out the network, and start meeting your goals, right? Whether it's qualifying for public funds, qualifying for the ballot, or just starting to hit your internal metrics, knocking on doors and making the touches to voters to start identifying the people that you're going to need come November. It's time to get organized, and you certainly have time, but it's just that first step is sometimes the hardest.
Yeah, I'll offer up, as somebody who's done a lot of fundraising. People love a symbolic ask as well, and ultimately, sometimes people will be a part of something in the spirit of helping you tell a good story. So if you say, I'm trying to get a contribution from every street in my district, that's a good way to get someone who might be like, well, okay, I'll be the guy who helps you on Oak Street, or I'll be the guy who helps you on Middle Street. I, living in Maine, did a lot of statewide campaigns here in Maine. I almost always had a fundraising goal of getting a financial contribution from all 514 towns in Maine, towns and townships. So those symbolic asks can be helpful for creating a false sense of urgency that is a really potent narrative urgency.
Thank you. Yes. And all right, as I said in the thing, in Portland specifically, I've talked about this with others, including like other candidates who are even considered somewhat front runners in the districts. Call time in Portland specifically, for reasons I mentioned above, is not working out because people in Portland, and this is an interesting thing for all of you guys not in Portland, are burnt out as hell and because of like the current, so they do generally lean more progressive with the voters here, but they don't like seeing like homeless people on the streets. They support police reform, but not defunding the police. They don't want drugs legalized anymore, and then other red lines that the progressive faction forces you to take from my personal experience and knowledge. And then, of course, the moderates have their own different red lines as well. So it's very interesting. Anyway, so that's just interesting, like tidbit from a Portland insider. Forgot my point.
It happens to the best of us. Any other questions in the chat?
Yeah, there was one I saw actually that you may not have caught. Where did it go? It was about, oh, from Mary. I know Andrew Yang is part of this effort. Have you reached out to other high profile independent politicians like Bernie or Dean Phillips who got ostracized from the Democratic Party? And I'll say not to date with Dean or Bernie. No, we have not made contact with either of them. Curious, Rob or Jared, if you want to add any commentary there, but you know, we're working our way up here. and Bernie's still, you know, independent leaning, but you know, currently a Democrat as well and working with the party in many ways. So it's a mix there.
Jared, do you want to arm wrestle for it or
For all these people.
Yeah.
I think look, we are open to folks across the political spectrum who've come to the conclusion ultimately that change isn't going to happen from the inside, and especially the change isn't going to happen from the inside at the national level. And I think that the two folks that you named, who have varying degrees of disenchantment with the two parties, are still not quite ready to take the bold leap of really, truly, and authentically leaving it. They still sort of operate within the two-party system, and they also are really focused, I think, broadly at the national scale. And so while we're open to having conversations with anyone who understands our mission and wants to contribute towards it and really authentically live and breathe it, we're actively working with folks who kind of are already there and who are especially understanding of the opportunity to affect change is really going to be from the ground up here. And so that's where our focus is. We're thrilled to have Paul here, who I think is marching in lockstep with that understanding, and many others who are working in the democracy reform space, trying to affect change locally outside of the two-party dynamic that we've got.
Yeah, I'll add that in general, at this point in where we're at as a movement, I'm more interested in finding grassroots support and the organizers who unlock real grassroots support than any sort of spokesperson for the organization. I want the work to speak for itself, and you know, the best leaders for movements like these, in my experience, it's the movement itself. You know, there's a quote I'm really fond of that is an organizer is a leader who doesn't lead from the front, but actually gets behind other people and pushes them. And that's what this movement needs to be successful. And that's what this movement will really need to last. So I'd rather have the happy problem, you know, after we get 1,000 wins to, you know, have folks who want to jump on the bandwagon. But like now's the time to put our heads down and do a lot of really hard work. And if we do that, people like Bernie, people like Dean Phillips, and maybe some leaders that we haven't even thought of will come our way. So that's what makes me excited.
Great. I think Pamela's got a question for you in the chat, which Jared can take there as well. So we'll close. I think any last big picture questions here before we close out? How are folks feeling? I'm just curious in the chat too. Like, are you intrigued, excited, nervous? Like, where are you at coming through this call? You know, would be curious to hear. You know, I think we're very gung ho and excited for this 1,000 wins push. You know, right up that curb, up that hill. And so just really grateful for folks taking the time today to join us and learn more about all this. So, yeah, very excited about it. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah. Well, I'll wrap us up and sort of just call out all the different ways that people can get involved after this call. So I would say for absolutely everyone, we hope that you'll participate by at least grabbing the sticker, put the badge on, be a part of this movement. So, hand out some of these stickers, but at the bare minimum, sign up and get some of these, stick it on your water bottle, and at a bare minimum, doing that helps to raise awareness that a group like Good Party is out there. If you're a candidate, join our Discord for candidates, where we are routinely doing trainings, where we're routinely offering up support and around the clock consultation for candidates. Our next event in that channel by way of training is focused on fundraising. I know that there were questions about fundraising on this call, and that's going to be on July 11th. We also, if you're a veteran, be sure to go to the Independent Veterans of America and get on their email list. Stay in touch with that organization. You guys got a sneak peek into this group that's going to be launching in about a week. Be active with them. If you have friends who are veterans, tell them about this and get them to run for office. We need more effective leaders, and we need more people to be a part of the work that we're doing. And then finally, we are all focused on getting as many candidates as possible on the Good Party platform so we can chase those 1,000 wins. If you have ideas, different ideas of how we can approach that, the political channel in our Discord is great place to pitch those. But I know that there's a link here that we're able to share that lets you know how to tap into our existing process. So that is it. Thank you all for being here. This has been
There's actually 1 second, Rob. Actually, I got one more. We got one more in the Instagram that I think is worth closing out with too. So we're
Okay.
just so folks know in the Zoom, we're live on Instagram and TikTok, and YouTube, etc. And we got a question about why is the name Good Party? It sounds like a political party, which I think it's interesting. We've actually been going through a pivot internally to now call our organization goodparty.org. Because we've had this challenge, I think, where people go, are you a political party? Are you a party planning company? I sometimes get that question, and we're not either of those things. And so similar to change.org is change.org, right? We are goodparty.org, which makes it clear it's not, a political party in that sense. We work with the alternative parties, with Forward, which we have a really awesome representation with here on the call today. Libertarians, Greens, etc. So we're in that space too, but we're not here to be a political party. We're here to really be the infrastructure to support all the parties that are alternative to Republicans and Democrats, independent candidates, nonpartisan candidates, and then also to build this bigger tent movement to bring folks together and really claim this identity, and make sure that folks know that we're the majority and it's time for us to take down the two-party system and actually get some problems solved around here. So that's why our name is our name. Super excited to be goodparty.org these days, and just want to say thank you so much to everyone, who came and spent time with us today and asked really great questions. This is just the beginning. If this is maybe you've been around for a while and you're tuning in a little more deeply, or if it's your first time making contact with us, just super grateful you're here, and can't wait to see this 1,000 wins come together. We're gonna push hard, guys. So excited.
Hi, everybody. Good seeing
Thank
you.
you. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.